After grief has been named and identity has been honored, something new begins to stir. Welcome back to Purpose Over Paycheck with me, Dr. Lisa, your host. This is a midlife reinvention movement for women 50 and above, rising in faith, walking in freedom, living in flow, and flourishing in every God designed season. Here we shift beliefs, elevate purpose, and step boldly into our next chapter. We are almost to the close of wrapping up this series, Retirement Grief, Wholeness in the In Between. And today's episode, we're talking about making room for what's emerging. There comes a moment, often quietly, when the weight of retirement grief softens just enough for curiosity to return. You may notice that the ache is not as sharp as it was at the beginning. The open space in your days don't feel as frightening. You're not reaching for the old title as often. You're not explaining yourself as much, and you're not trying to recreate the life you just left. The grief hasn't disappeared, but it has softened enough to make room for something gentler. Not urgency, not a plan, just a sense that something is emerging. I find it interesting that when I speak with women who have retired before me or who have recently retired, just like me, that they don't often talk about the retirement grief. But when we start having a conversation and I name it, then man, the conversation begins to flow and questions come. Well, what about this? And what about that? And did you feel this way? And I wasn't quite sure how to navigate it. So that's why we're having this conversation in this entire series about retirement grief, because many women feel pressure to figure out what's next, to assign meaning, to be productive again, which makes sense because we've been productive for decades. That's how we got to this place of being able to retire in the first place. But emergence doesn't respond well to pressure. It doesn't respond well to pressure. It responds to space. Just sit with that for a moment. Space, emerging. I think about when I was writing my notes, I thought about space, that emergence responds to space, thinking about even planting a seed in the ground, that in order for that seed to germinate and grow into whatever it is it's supposed to be, it needs space. When you plant the seeds, you don't necessarily plant them close together, because when it starts to grow and get roots and stretch out, reach down, before it breaks the surface of the ground to flourish and grow, it needs space to do so. It needs room. And in this season, making room, having space isn't about filling the calendar. It's about loosening what no longer fits. And going back to the seed analogy, that encasement of the seed, in order for it to grow and be vibrant, that casing, that structure that got it into the ground no longer fits for the next stage of growth, development, and emergence that's going to take place. It's noticing where your energy naturally goes, not forced, but just naturally. It's paying attention to what brings peace instead of that adrenaline. It's allowing interest to rise without immediately demanding outcomes. Ooh, child, that part. It's like praying, seed time harvest, and waiting for the answer, but disconnecting from the outcome, knowing that an answer is going to come, but the outcome, not controlling that. This is where wholeness becomes practical. You don't have to force the next chapter into existence. Breathe. You already prepared the ground. You already have all the tools. Now, in this season, you let it grow. When grief is honored, it stops clinging. When identity is integrated, it stops competing. And when freedom is metabolized, it creates naturally capacity. Imagine that. Remember how full calendars, we only had the capacity to do so much? But embracing and metabolizing this freedom and this peace and this flow, capacity looks different and it feels different. What's emerging may not look impressive yet. That seed in the ground may not look like that apple tree. It may not look like the tomatoes and the green peppers or the watermelon or whatever it is that you planted. Not yet. It may feel unfinished, even fragile. That doesn't mean it's insignificant. That doesn't mean that the work isn't being done. That doesn't mean that space isn't being honored and capacity is growing. It means it's new and worthy of protection, just like that seedling. It's worthy of protection. Making room is an act of faith. It trusts that what's next will reveal itself when it's ready to be held. When it's ready, which means when it's ready, that's a signal that you're ready. Let me invite you into this reflection. In the comments, answer this softly. What feels like it might be emerging for you, even faintly? A curiosity, a desire, a way of being? What is emerging, even faintly, for you in this season? What's emerging for me is capacity and flow. If it doesn't flow naturally, not doing it. No capacity for it. And if this resonates with you, subscribe, because becoming doesn't require force, only faithfulness to what's unfolding. And think about it like this. Over the decades of you working, over the years that you planted seed, look at it as retirement season, or this next chapter or phase of life. It's like the harvest. It's the harvest time. But harvest also is a time of planting something new for the next season, because this is simply the next phase, not the last, it's the next, right? So, harvesting the seeds of what was planted earlier and planting seeds still for the next phase. That's what life is. It's cyclical. So, what's resonating for you? And before we close, you know what I like to do? Let me bless you. May you resist the pressure to rush what is still forming. May you trust that making room is enough for now. May your faith steady as new desires take shape. May your freedom protect what is emerging. May your flow teach you how to wait without withholding hope. And may you remember what's emerging in you does not need to be finished to be faithful. Midlife is not a crisis. I promise you that. It's our invitation to reinvention. We're still here, we're still rising, and we're making this next chapter our best one yet. Faith, freedom, flow, flourishing. This is 50 plus reinvented.